Today I want to talk a little bit about a very strange idea, which is willpower. We tend to leave willpower in its own circle in our life. It becomes something that other people do. When we think of willpower, we don't think about making a cup of coffee or making a cup of tea or mailing a letter or an email or writing a poem. Willpower is a very strange idea because the world that we live in is based mostly on production, producing a thing to sell. I chose this topic of willpower and the obstacle illusion because when I was young, I kind of had a difficulty reading, and I had a difficulty really understanding really what people said. I guess when I was really young, I had some problems with my ears, and I just remember being in the hospital, and it was almost like being in a small cage, and I had some surgery done, and I don't remember it very clearly, but I do remember really hearing things very differently after that. And so when I would hear people talk, or when I would listen to songs and I would listen to the life that was around me, things seemed distorted. I was hearing a sound or hearing some words that may or may not be there. Now, I think we all experience this when we listen to a song and we hear the lyrics differently than we wanted to. And some people have a great skill of hearing very clearly. But this association continued on through my life, and it affected my ability to read books. It affected my ability to really understand what people were saying, and I tend to make mistakes a lot. I, for example, thought the New Testament and the Old Testament were in reverse, that the New Testament, because it was the first one, it should be in the front, and the Old Testament would have come later. And it was a logical warp for me to really grab how the two actually were in a timeline setting. So I made this idea of this obstacle illusion because it's really from the idea of an optical illusion. And I thought, really, within my own willpower and overcoming my own deeds or my own tasks or my own problems, really overcoming myself, I began to think about an obstacle illusion, that life actually was an illusion and the obstacles within it were an illusion. So I want to look at willpower, apathy, and harmony. How do we go about talking about this? Because a lot of times people don't want to talk about philosophy. They think philosophy is about, does God exist or does God not exist? What is right and what is wrong? But philosophy is much different than this. Philosophy is actually on the earth level. It's very close to the ground. It's very close to everything that we do. It's the eye that a girl gives you when she's about to fall in love with you. It's the nervousness and the sweatiness in your hand when you're about to do something that you think is dangerous. So I want to talk about it in 3 basic steps. The first one being life and death. Then I want to look at apathy, and then talking a little bit about how we can restore our hope to make ourselves stronger. When we think of life and death, I wanted to really bring out a point that Nietzsche focused on, because Nietzsche was one of the first psychologists of his day, of his time. He wasn't really focusing on the phenomenology of the world. He was really focusing on where or what were the roots of our concepts, where were the roots of why we hate something or why we love something. And he really spoke out to me in a way that touched me a lot, was we understand what we are from what we are not. So I am what I am not. So it sounds very confusing, but really it's about trying to understand what we are through our experience. When I experience something, I don't really know what it is. And this is what brings this idea. Nietzsche actually says we are necessarily strangers to ourselves. We do not comprehend ourselves. And this really means that we don't know what we are at the time. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I didn't prepare this. I don't know what's going to happen in 1 minute from now. Is there going to be an earthquake? Is there going to be is somebody going to break in? Is what's going to happen? We only gauge things through the extremes of our experience. Now, I learn what is spicy from what is not spicy. I don't know what is spicy. I taste something spicy, and then I taste something sweet. And it's from this that I can begin to know what is spicy and what is sweet. I do this everywhere in my life. I know what is delicious. I know what is healthy for me. I know what feels clean inside of my body. And I know that doing something like sucking on my foot is probably not as healthy. When I look at the vegetables I eat and I begin to think of the freshness of where things are, and I begin to gauge what is healthy for my body, what does my body need? I need to begin to eat several things. I need to eat a cake, and I need to have French fries in order to really know that difference. And all of this food is around us. But we also do this in other parts of our thinking. What is natural? We begin to know what is natural from the trees and the plants and the flowers. But we don't know what is natural until we know what is completely unnatural. So what is nature? It's not clear. We don't exactly know what it is. We do this from good ideas and bad ideas. We see here the urinals are placed for people with different heights. And so we do have a thought process that comes. But when we see something like this, and this is actually my own house, they had placed the water heater here and put the exhaust line directly into the gas line. This is definitely a bad idea. Now, we learn all of these things through these experiences. And likewise, beauty. We know what is beautiful from what is not beautiful. Can we define beauty? Can we define all of these things? Can we exactly know what I am and what I think about? It's not easy to figure out. We can even know what is cute, what is adorable, to what is not cute and what is not adorable. These are the ways that we function. And though it's not scientific, there's no way to really break things down into strict categories, we need to really think about the way that we view our willpower. So when I first thought of this, I thought of life. I had this idea in my mind that life is so important to all of us. We're always thinking about life. How can I be more successful? How can I make more money? How can I be more efficient with my time? Life is a very important point for us. And I looked up online and I saw 267 people are born every minute. So even within this talk, we're going to have, X amount of people are going to be born. That's 140 million people a year are born. Now, life is fascinating. And I had stumbled upon some information for a class, and I had seen a very interesting idea from a German scientist named Winfried Schumann. And he had speculated this idea that the Earth, what surrounds the Earth, everything that the Earth is, actually gives like a frequency. It makes a sound. The world makes a sound. It hums. It's almost like a beating heart. And that sound is 7.83 hertz. And I record a lot of music, and so I immediately began to think, what would this sound like? And it really sounds like woo, 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 woo. It is this sound. We can't hear it, but it's actually there, and it's been kind of verified by other scientists in the scientific community. And when we think about this, we don't really think about like me giving off a sound, or my baby giving off a sound, or something. But this is really fascinating, that there is a resonance, something that is giving off. Everywhere we go, the clouds, the rocks, the trees, the buildings, everything is humming. There is this hum of life. Now, what does this have to do with willpower? What is the relationship? And when I thought of this, I think of life, and you have to think of death along with life. And not a lot of people like to talk about death because it's just over and nobody has any scientific knowledge of what happens after that. But for me, I was really thinking about, we have all of these statistics about life. We have these numbers that show us about how many people survive this, how many people survive that. But all of these negative numbers on the other side of the line, they kind of disappear. They just become quantifiable. How many people died? So I began to look at numbers, and every year 9 million children die. Every year before the age of 5. They die from diseases, or they die from sudden death syndromes. There are many reasons why they die. And it really made me think that how much do we embrace their will? How much do we embrace their potential? Just because they died, we assumed that it's not worth studying. Because they didn't make it, they must have failed. So somehow what they experienced wasn't as real as what I experienced. And that really hit me hard. Life is a complete experiment. We really don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to survive tomorrow. We don't know if we're going to survive the next week. And this can bring a lot of anxiety and stress to people. And along with this experiment, we sometimes forget that when we are in this experiment, we don't know what's going to happen until we do something. If I write a book, are people going to read it? If I write a song, is somebody going to listen to it? If I make a movie, is somebody going to watch it? We're so concerned about what will happen afterwards that we begin to stifle ourselves and make it so that we can't breathe and we can't think, and that, oh, I'm not a painter, so I don't paint. I'm not a dancer, so I don't dance. I'm not a singer, so I don't sing. And that's really just closing the doors on many of our life experiments. Basically, we fear risk. We fear doing something that could go wrong. We fear going camping because what if we don't have enough food? What if we don't have enough gas to get back? What if? We begin to drown ourselves with all of these possibilities, and it affects the different parts of our lives. Should I get married? Who should I marry? Who should I love? What should my experience be? Everybody's watching you. You begin to get really claustrophobic, afraid of anything. And this brings about our apathy. It stops us from doing something. We shouldn't have a midlife crisis where we turn 50 years old and buy a Corvette and jump in the ocean. We should be jumping in the ocean all the time. We should be not holding in everything and just relaxing a bit more and letting ourselves bleed, because we're already a part of this hum of life. Society tells us to be beautiful. Society tells us how much money it will cost to be beautiful. So society tells us what we need to do. Society tells me that I need to have my hair short, that I can't have a beard, that I can't wear flip-flops to a convention. Society tells me all of these things. It really tries to structure everything that I am. So even though it can be very helpful, it can really limit much of your possibilities. I remember being really afraid of having children because I just saw what people that had children were doing, the kinds of education systems that they were surrounded by, the kind of relationships they have. I didn't like Santa Claus. I didn't like Christmas. I didn't like all of those things. I thought they were actually weaknesses. And I became really afraid of that. Then I just jumped in and said, let's do it. Let's make sure that whatever we do it with our hearts. We do it. I want my daughter to be my friend. I want my children to see me as a companion, as a fellow that lives with them, that shares this experience. This in itself is truth. Where is the truth? We're so busy looking for truth and finding the answer that we really forget that the truth is already there. Everything you do is the truth. Everything you create already is the truth. If you decide to go one way or the other, that is the truth. If I become a murderer and kill somebody, that becomes a truth. If I become a doctor and create some kind of medicine, this is also a truth. Everything is a truth. As long as you do it, it is a truth. This begins to really break apart the mystery of it when we begin to realize that our life itself already is truth. And we choose to do something or not to do something, we are developing an example of that truth, and other people watch that example. If I smoke, somebody else is going to want to smoke or hate smoking, or if I do anything, it's going to have an influence. This experiment with truth came to me at a very strong point in my life. I was reading Gandhi's autobiography, and it really hit me about his determination to be poor, his determination to reach out to those that didn't have. And for me, I really wanted to explore these concepts where I felt that I was maybe lacking, or that I was in this whirlpool of confusion, and I wanted to find ways to solve this. So basically, the conclusion comes out to be that what is alive is already an experimentation with truth. Everything that we do, everywhere we go, every person we help, everything that we touch becomes an explosive light. It becomes a part of, hey, that person is interesting. That person didn't have to do that, but they did it anyways, and this is what makes it special. Everywhere we go, every story we tell, and every expression that we are becomes a part of the truth that other people experience as well. We can't just sit and watch TV all day. We can't just sit and watch movies all day. We have to really go out, and we have to share that creative experience with others. So, I think to myself that every single day that I need to be the power of my will. I am my will. My will is the truth. My will is the expression of survival. My will is the expression of light. So when I think of the next generations, and of course there are many things to be nervous about, governments, big banking, World Health Organizations, World Trade Organizations, all of these larger companies, they can be very overwhelming to us at times, and we feel that we're just so small and we have no impact and no influence over the world. We just kind of retract into our cubicles and just be worker bees. But really it's much different than that. We become the exploration. We forget that much of what is to come is still a mystery. So what is willpower? It's only what we do. Willpower is the full expression of every risk that you take, and it is absolutely crucial that you take a risk. Any religion, any government, any project, anything that doesn't push the limits risks vanishing.